Welcome back, everybody. It's the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm joined, as always, by Pat Fitzmaurice, Fitzy at Fitz_FF. How you doing, man? How's the offseason treating you?
Boggs, I'm doing great, man. And the offseason's treating me well, but doesn't it feel like the season's going to be upon us in no time? I mean, we've hit that lull where the NBA and NHL seasons are over. It's just baseball. And but like that period always goes really fast. I mean, my wife always complains about how fast summer goes by. And she's right. Like once 4th of July hits, it's like a boulder rolling downhill.
It goes into turbo mode.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I usually get some form of seasonal depression around right now because there's no basketball. That's done. I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but the hockey's over. We're in the dog days of baseball, and usually the Diamondbacks are bad, but, that's what's keeping me up right now. The D-backs are pretty good, so I'm enjoying that. But, yeah, man, like, we're hitting that, like, not so much stuff to bet on every day. And, it's all baseball right now, which we love. We're baseball guys, but we want that football back. We want the camps. We want the news. Although I do think some news these days is a little bit overblown. We are going to be talking our running back ranks, our top 24, and a couple of the differences that we have within those top 24 today on the show. But the big news recently, Fitz, was the Stefon Diggs drama of him missing camp and stuff. And I don't even think this is real. Should have been a story at all. I think in the 70s, nobody knows that this happened because he was back in one day. It's just we have Twitter now. So we have people tweeting about how Stefon Diggs didn't show up for camp or whatever and all that stuff. How do you sort through the news at this stage in the game when we are so far away from the season starting, but we're thirsty for news? So it seems like everything is a little overblown at this point.
Yeah, case by case, Boggs. But I mean, I do tend to look at this stuff with a gimlet eye and a definite filter, because this seemed like a big nothing burger, didn't it? Like he missed one day.
Oh, so big. Yeah. But he also put some cryptic, messages on Instagram and stuff. It's like, come on, you're feeding the fire here.
I know, but we know, Steph's been he's had some diva tendencies, right? Like as a lot of NFL wide receivers do. Exactly. So, I'm just letting it slide. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Now, if DeAndre Hopkins signs with the Bills, then we'll have something to parse and, go over, because that would dramatically affect things. Kiss the value of Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, and maybe even Dalton Kincaid goodbye for this year.
I hope that doesn't happen, because that eats into too many jobs. I'd rather take my guess. I think your guess is Shakir minus Kincaid for this, which means it'll obviously be Gabe Davis. But that I just like the fact that we can gamble on someone in Buffalo because the offense is so good. But yeah, if Hopkins were to sign there, it'd kind of kill most of the value for those guys. Is there any other news that you saw recently that had you feeling good or feeling bad about anyone? Little news about Javonte, but not enough to really go off of anything. And no rumors for any of these running back signings. That's we've been waiting on that for months.
Yeah, I'm surprised that market has just been, still water. Nothing moving, nothing developing, no rumors even. It's kind of strange, Boggs. Can I go back to Kincaid for 1 second, though?
Sure.
I was just looking at something. Since 2000, there have been 25 tight ends drafted in the first round. Boggs, how many of those 25 tight ends finished in tight end 1 range as rookies?
2 or 3. It's not a lot. It's the hardest position to transition to in the NFL.
Yeah, it was 4. And 4. Man, now I'm struggling to remember them off the top of my head. It was like Evan Ingram was one of them, and some of the other guys were like older.
Probably Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey
was hurt.
He did nothing. Yeah, he did nothing his rookie year. That's right. He was big in his first year. He was healthy, but yeah. Was Goddard on that list? I feel like Goddard was pretty good.
Goddard was not. A couple of them were older. No, Ertz wasn't even a first rounder, was he?
Mark Andrews, you're right. Yeah. No, Mark Andrews is a third rounder. I was just thinking of tight ends total, rookie tight ends. I wasn't even thinking of first round rookie tight ends. Pitts was good. Pitts had to be in that list,
Pitts
right?
Was for
he had
sure.
1,000 yards.
Yeah. So Pitts, Ingram, man, one of them was, oh gosh, I'm just trying to blank. One was from the early 2000s. Really stupid of me to bring this up, Boggs, without having that note in front of me, so I could.
Was it Anthony Becht? I'm trying to.
Not Anthony Becht, but it was amazing. And in looking at that, how many of these guys weren't even in tight end 40 range. It just reminds you of what a poor percentage play rookie tight ends are. And even though I'm excited about this class long term for Dynasty, in redraft, I'm not going to be drafting many rookie tight ends unless I can get them really late.
I understand that. The tight end is kind of deep right now. So we'll get to that when we get into tight ends. Today we're doing running backs, but I feel like tight end is a little deep. So I feel like it's okay to gamble this year. There's good rookie tight ends too. I feel like we're going to get our fifth from someone. So we'll see. But
there's only one first option, rounders.
Buddy. Yeah, there's only one option.
Exactly.
Yeah. I keep thinking of rookie total. Just all rookies. But yeah, you're right. It's just the first rounders. So I don't know why that's not working in my brain. But if you want your brain to work, you got to go ahead and go to Fantasy Pros and upgrade to premium. We have the winner here. The winner of the 1 year Fantasy Pros premium is Aldwin Parchment. Please get in touch with customer support agents at mailbag@fantasypros.com with proof of your subscription to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel and your current fantasypros.com username, and we will get that upgrade process for you as soon as possible. Again, the winner is Aldwin Parchment. Congratulations. And if you want to win a free year of Fantasy Pros Premium too, subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel and comment below on this video, because when you do, you can win a FREE free upgrade to Fantasy Pros Premium. Whether you're looking for custom mock drafts, salary cap tools, or in-depth analysis of your fantasy performance, Fantasy Pros Premium has the tools to help you win. Unlock the most powerful fantasy tools in the industry. Don't want to wait for the giveaway? Sign up today at fantasypros.com/premium and start playing smarter, not harder. All right, Fitz, let's get into the running backs. We are going to highlight the top 12, so the RB1s in your standard 12-man league according to us, and then go over our differences. So I hand it over to you, Fitzy. Let's hear your RB1s for Dynasty.
All right. Before I rattle those off, Boggs, I thought of one of the other tight ends, Jeremy Shockey.
Okay. Shockey, that makes so much sense. He was so good. I remember him in the Hall of Fame game against the Texans. That might have been the Texans' first or second season. I think it might have been their first season. But I remember him just doing the forearm shivers and all that stuff his rookie season. He was a beast. He was a lot of fun.
Man. And,
a little crazy,
wanted
but a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. He wanted to brawl after every play. He was just nuts, man. But it's I mean, now it seems like he's I saw an interview with him recently. It seems like he's toned it down a little bit, but he had some pretty vivid recollections of his career.
Nope.
So
we're all young, we're all young once. So
exactly.
There you go.
All right. So my top 12 Boggs, it starts at the top with Bijan Robinson, looking like a generational talent, and Jonathan Taylor, number 2. Breece Hall, number 3. I'm not too discouraged by the knee injury last year, considering it was just an ACL tear. Happened early in the season. Should be good to go this year. Christian McCaffrey at number 4. I pulled a little switcheroo, Boggs, because we're going to talk about these guys. I moved up Jamyr Gibbs 1 spot to number 5. And I've got Saquon Barkley 6 now. Najee Harris 7. Josh Jacobs 8. Travis Etienne 9. Tony Pollard 10. Kenneth Walker 11, and Ramondre Stevenson 12.
Interesting list here for me. I have the same top 5, one guy, or I guess not the same top 5 now that you've switched it. But my number 1 is also Bijan. I mean, anyone who's listened to this show or me anywhere knows I'm a huge Texas fan. Obviously, you're not surprised that I'm a homer about that, but Bijan is unbelievably talented. And I'm super excited to see him at the next level and for everyone to be on board with us next year. Fits for sure. Number 2, JT, injury plague last season. I understand people not being into it, but JT's the guy, and they're going to run a lot, and he might get better running with Anthony Richardson in that backfield as well. Going to be a lot of fun to watch. My number 3 is Christian McCaffrey. the Breece Hall stuff, I have Breece at 4, and you have that reversed, but you can go either way. Obviously, if you want to play the longer game, you're going to take Breece. If you're like me and you want to win today, right now, you're going to take McCaffrey because he's not injured. And the other concerning thing I have a little, just tiny bit about Breece is, why did the Jets keep drafting running backs, Fitz? I mean, it took Michael Carter, and then they took Breece Hall, and then Devon Achane, and Zonovan Knight is pretty good. Like, they have a deep running back room. It's pretty crazy.
And Boggs, when you look at the odds for who Dalvin Cook is going to play his first snap for in 2023, like the Jets are number 2 on the board. It's weird.
That's got to be just a New York, like you're getting the New York bets if you're the book. I feel like that is very, like Dallas is high too, but Dallas makes more sense.
Yeah, but there has been a little bit of smoke as far as reports. Like I've seen it reported in 2 or 3 spots that the Jets were possibly one of the landing spots.
I will be super surprised if that is the spot where Cook, like, look, maybe Cook just wants to go win a ring. Maybe that's where he is in his career. I don't think so, though. I think he still wants to play. My number 5 is Saquon. My number 6 is Austin Ekeler, who was not on your list. You have him at 13. I don't have Gibbs on my list, who is your number 5. I have him at 14. Tony Pollard is number 7 for me. Then I have Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Kenneth Walker at 10, Derrick Henry at 11, and Nick Chubb at 12. Derrick Henry, a big difference for you and I, as well as you have him at 20. All right. So look, ECR for Gibbs is 6. So you're 1 spot ahead. I'm at 14. I think this just comes down to a small difference in philosophy for you and I, because for me, Fitz, all I want is to see what kind of role they give Gibbs. I know Gibbs is super talented. I know he's going to be very good. I worry a little bit about David Montgomery being there as well, but I don't think he's the talent that Gibbs is. So I feel like I'm in on Gibbs, but according to ECR, I'm low on him. So tell me what gives you the confidence to put him in the top 5. Over Saquon is surprising. 6, I was okay with, Fitz. Over Saquon's a little surprising to me. So tell us what you're thinking.
Well, Saquon fell off a little late last year, and I wonder if he's ever going to be quite the same guy again. Got off to a really terrific start last year, no question. But it seemed like by the end of the season, he was maybe, tapering off just a bit. So, but as far as Gibbs, Boggs, I mean, I know you're like your old guys, but having him out of the top 10 feels a little disrespectful. Do you have him ranked ahead of Mark Ingram? Can I just check on that?
Yeah, he is okay, just slightly ahead of Mark Ingram.
That's good. Yes. I mean, the only issue, I guess, for me with Gibbs, Boggs, is that he's unlikely to ever be a true workhorse. But I do think there is a pretty good chance we're getting another Alvin Kamara, Austin Ekeler type, an elite pass-catching running back who is also going to make a meaningful contribution as a runner. And we're getting him at age 21 at the onset of his career. So if he doesn't get 200 carries a season, that's okay, I think, as long as he's catching 50, 60, 70 balls or more. And I think his profile as a prospect suggests that he will be that sort of guy.
I like Gibbs a lot, and I definitely think that Alvin Kamara is the blueprint for him to have an enormous career. The problem is there's not many Alvin Kamaras. So I do think Gibbs can do it, but I think Montgomery is a guy that can be a first and second down guy as well, and they paid him a decent amount of money. That doesn't mean anything, right? Like because the NFL, specifically with Pete Carroll, like you have mentioned, is a meritocracy, but it's a meritocracy everywhere. It doesn't really matter if you're making money. Ask Kenny Galladay. If you can't play, you cannot play. So, or if someone is just way better than you, that guy gets the run. And that could happen very quickly with Gibbs. I do think he's a better back than Montgomery. I'm just a little concerned with them paying him. They obviously have an idea for his role in mind. And so maybe the rookie season's a little less than we want, and maybe it just takes him a little longer to ease into that real Kamara role.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I would contend though that the investment in draft capital that the Lions made with Gibbs was more significant than the dollar investment they made with Montgomery. And I brought up Mark Ingram earlier. I do see this as kind of a Kamara Ingram type setup for the Lions this year, where like Montgomery's going to have a relevant role without question. But we saw Ingram and Kamara both be fantasy relevant for the Saints. I think we could see the same thing with Gibbs and Montgomery in Detroit this year.
And the thing pushing one of those guys over could be just who gets goal line carries. That could be the thing. So, and, but it also could be that goal line carries go to Sam Laporta, in 1 yard, little dump offs or whatever. So we'll see. I love Gibbs, but I'm lower on him than ECR even. So the guy that I have here that you have low, I've got Derrick Henry at 11. I understand, I'm away from ECR on this one as well. But the whole offense is built around him, Fitz. That's the thing. And even if it's only for like 2 more seasons that this guy is putting up incredible numbers, and maybe he just has that prodigious fall off that we do see a lot of running backs have, I think it's more of a fading into the sunset type of Adrian Peterson, where honestly, Adrian Peterson really fell off mainly because of his off the field stuff. I feel like more than just physically. His ECR is 17, so higher than where you have him at 20, but lower than where I have him at 11. For me, it's tough for me to not rank Derrick Henry as an RB1 until I see him physically slow down. He's had some injuries. He was banged up, but last year he was right back at it and fine. So, the injury year scared everybody, and I understand that's why he's a firm RB2 now. But for me, I don't know, man, that whole offense runs through him. So I just still have incredible faith in Derrick Henry.
Yeah, this is a game of chicken with the age cliff, Boggs. And, you are driving that car at 100 miles an hour, and the cliff is coming up, and you're just fearless. You've got your sunglasses on, and you're, not concerned about what's ahead. I've already bailed out of the car, and I'm like, rolling down the road. He's 29 and a half.
Yeah.
He's 29 and a half. He's had 2,046 career touches if you count playoff games, with a high contact style. So talk about driving the car to the edge of the cliff. You're driving a car with like 250,000 miles on it too, Boggs. The end is going to come fast when it comes. And maybe he is one of those guys who defies, the norms and is able to keep it going till 33, 34. But even the great ones like, Eddie George is a pretty good comp, and, Eddie George eventually fell off too. I worry that Henry's going to fall off, and it could happen soon. But again, Boggs, it's what sort of mode you're in. Are you in win now mode, or are you in build mode?
Right.
If you're in build mode, why is Derrick Henry on your roster? If you're in win now mode, he makes perfect sense on your roster.
And honestly, where I have him ranked, and you guys should know this, if you're rostering Derrick Henry, and where I have him ranked, you're going to go ahead and trade him to a team that is contending. This is the value that you should get for him, and hold their feet to the fire, because if your team is not good and you have an asset like Derrick Henry, you gotta squeeze that. You gotta squeeze him for all the juice he's worth, right? So hold everybody's feet to the fire, make them pay a little extra, and understand that in someone's eyes like that, he is still a first-round running back. He's still a first-round player this year. They want to win this year. That's what he's worth. Like you said, you're not trading Derrick Henry to someone that's not contending because you want to get what you want out of him in the next 2 to 3 seasons, probably max 3 seasons. My thought process is if he has 2 great years, if he has another good year this year, another good year next year, and then he starts fading, like if I win money, that's worth it to me. That's a first round guy to me. And that's what he is right now. And I fear for a lot of running backs ever getting to what Derrick Henry will get this season. And I think that is also why I have him at 11. This could be a fall off season for him. We don't know. I trust in the process. I trust in these guys that are just freaks, and he is an absolute freak of nature. So I still love him. Anybody else in the RB1 category here that you want to go over?
Well, let's talk about the other guy that you have in the RB1 category that I do not. He just misses for me. You've got Austin Ekeler RB6, and I've got him RB13 in our Dynasty rankings. So
yeah, look, for my love. Yeah, my love of Ekeler here is that I love the Chargers offense. He is the number one through it right now. He had that little, holdout, whatever-y thing, but he's going to be there. He's going to be playing for the Chargers, and this is a guy I do fear that he breaks down, but what he could give you this season, I mean, it's just historic the way that he has been. And I understand for Dynasty specifically, people rank him lower because of his size and his stature. I'm more afraid of Ekeler breaking down than I am Henry, but the top end specifically for this year and next year are still incredibly high for Ekeler. So I have a hard time moving him down despite his stature.
I totally get it. And, most dynasty leagues are, in fact, PPR. So Austin Ekeler, obviously, the format suits him. And at 28, he is not quite as close to the age cliff as Derrick Henry, presumably. Great as a pass catcher, Bugs, but I do wonder if he's going to get 127 targets last year, career high by far. Next highest, 127 targets and 107 receptions last year. Next highest total, 108 targets and 92 catches in 2019. Justin Herbert averaged a ridiculously low 6.4 intended air yards per pass attempt last year. And I think that is part of the reason why they kicked Joe Lombardi to the curb as offensive coordinator. I mean, 6.4 is ridiculous. The year before he was 7.6. When you've got arm talent like Herbert's, you don't want this dink and dunk offense. I mean, you have to stretch the field vertically. And so hopefully Kellen Moore is going to do that. I do think the change is probably going to mean fewer targets for Ekeler. And we know they don't really want him to be the do everything back, the early down guy. I mean, they've been cycling through, making all these attempts to bring in guys who can be the early down.
They gave up on that, though.
Josh,
they're like, we've done too many of these. We can't do it again this year. So it looks like it's either going to be Kelly or Spiller. I still hold out hope for Spiller, man. I still think that he could be pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see another 100-catch season for Ekeler. He's still going to be valuable, granted, but maybe not as immensely valuable. And, we're probably looking at another 2 or 3 really productive years tops from Ekeler.
Yeah, I would say that I have kind of a tier, I'd say 1 through 5 is a tier for me, Bijan down to Barkley. And then 6 through 9 of Ekeler, Pollard, Jacobs, and Harris. Like, these are all number one options on their team, right? Like, not just number one running back. This is the first option to put the ball in someone's hand on your squad, I feel like. Maybe Pollard isn't with Lamb. You can contest Jacobs with Adams, but last year, obviously, Jacobs was the guy. And as we know, Josh McDaniels will not change his strategy, even if he's up, and he will not adjust, and he'll just lose games. Did you see that thread about the Raiders' historic losing of games that they were winning last season? It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, McDaniel's just a terrible coach, but terrible coach hands the ball to Josh Jacobs 1,000 times a game. So I still like Josh Jacobs a ton. So that's kind of why I have that tier. Like, after that, Henry's a little older, Chubb's a little older. You got to move those guys down. They're both still number one options on their team as well. But Kenneth Walker is kind of where, like, he's young, so I got to put him ahead of those old guys, but he's questionable. as the number one. So he's kind of in a tier of his own for me. So before we move on here, let me tell you guys about Reality Sports Online. Most of you have heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy teams like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? It's time to see what all the buzz in the Dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Think it sounds complicated. It is not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't require any more time than a standard league, just more strategy. Think you're among the fantasy elite? Well, this is a platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test out your general manager skills for free, FREE, in a mock. If you like what you see, use a promo code FantasyPros to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com. All right, Fitzy, let's go to RB2s for Dynasty. What do you got? 13 on down to 24.
Yeah, so at 13, I have, Austin Ekeler, and then Javonte Williams coming off the major knee injury. I'm concerned about that knee injury for sure, Boggs, but I do think, if we can get him healthy, even if it takes a year in a Sean Payton offense. I mean, Sean Payton's offenses have been great for running backs.
Still love Javonte. I'm with you.
Yeah. So running back 15, Nick Chubb. Running back 16, Rachaad White, who we're going to talk about shortly. 17, Cam Akers. 18, Dameon Pierce. 19, J.K.Dobbins. 20, Derrick Henry. 21, Zach Charbonnet. 22, Devon Achane. 23, DeAndre Swift. And 24, Aaron Jones.
For me, at number 13, I have Travis Etienne. 14 is Jamyr Gibbs. We talked about him. I have Javonte at 15, so one spot below where you have him. Ramondre is 16 for me. Joe Mixon is 17. I have Dalvin Cook at 18. Then Zach Charbonnet at 19. Aaron Jones at 20. A.J. Dillon at 21. Dameon Pierce at 22. Cam Akers at 23. And Miles Sanders at number 24. So, Fitz, where do you want to start first? You want to talk about my guys? You want to defend your guys?
Let's talk about your guys, Boggs.
All right. Well, I got the two old guys first, and this is the big issue that a lot of people would have with my dynasty rankings, and I understand that. And look, if you're not looking to win this year, you want to play for next year, or you just want to play for the longer term in general, maybe my rankings aren't for you, but for me, and the reason I do this for everyone that hasn't heard it, and I apologize to those of you that have, I want to win now because I've been in so many dynasty leagues that just fold. They fold up after 4 or 5 years. You get too many different owners in there. Maybe the rules are a little too complicated. People aren't paying attention. If leagues fold up, the general idea is we all want to play in a real dynasty league for 20 or 30 years. It's just not the reality for a lot of these leagues. So I'm trying to win immediately. That's why I value some of these guys that are longer in the tooth than other people. So just overall arching statement, know that. But also, I don't personally like Joe Mixon. I thought he was going to get cut. I was ready to bury him. But then he worked things out with the Bengals. Seems like maybe he won't get this suspension that we thought that maybe he was going to get. So he's the number one running back on a very, very good offense. Now, the difference between him and Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb is that he is easily the number 2 option for touches behind Chase, maybe number 3 if you want to put Higgins ahead of him as well. He'll have more touches than those guys because he's a running back, but they want to get the ball first to Chase, then to anybody else. So Dalvin Cook obviously just cut from Minnesota. His ranking will change one way or the other for me. I think it's most likely to go down regardless of where he signs. But if he signs in Miami, that's the one spot where I'll probably keep him here. But I hesitate to move him until I find out where he's going to go. So my first two guys, Fitz, Mixon and Cook, it's just established. They're established guys. Cook, Mixon's on a great offense. We think Cook could land up somewhere good. Miami being the number 1, Dallas would be great. If he goes to the Jets, I'll bury him. But because he's just ring chasing at that point and not stat chasing at all because Breece Hall is going to come and take all the touches. But any of those other spots, I'll lower him, but it won't be significant. So Mixon and Cook, how far down the road are you on those guys?
Yeah, so you've got Mixon RB17, I have him RB26, and Cook, the gap is bigger there. You've got him at RB18, okay. I've got him RB33. And here's the thing, Boggs. I mean, I do agree with you that we've got the difference in perspective of you sort of looking more at immediate value and me looking at future value. I guess my thing is that I'm not sure these guys are going to provide the same sort of immediate value that they've been providing in recent years. Like Mixon, I'm a little bit more optimistic about that he can sort of continue the way he's been, although I don't think he looks as explosive as he did in his first couple of years in the league. I mean, he's average.
I agree with that. I mean, he got a lot of points on that, like 4 or 5 touchdown game, right? Like that was his huge output of the year.
Right. And he's averaged 3.9 yards per carry over the last 3 seasons. And I do realize part of that is that the Bengals line has been a little trashy. Now they're upgraded and hopefully league average or better up front, but that hasn't really been the case. But yeah, I mean, he was this rumored cut candidate, and I think really the only reason maybe they didn't do that is because they know their Super Bowl window is wide open, and why mess around with instability at running back if you could just kind of run it back with an established commodity. But I just don't know how well he's going to age, Boggs, considering that he doesn't seem as explosive anymore, and that's just kind of eye test stuff. But yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I still think he's a useful asset. I'm just worried about, maybe we see a little more slippage this year. And, I don't know what it's going to look like 2 or 3 years from now. With Cook, I'm just like, I don't think he's going to be a workhorse anymore. I think the role is going to be different where I don't know if there's a single landing spot, Boggs, where they would afford him a workhorse type role. I don't think he gets it in Miami.
You don't think Miami would do that?
No, I don't think he's going to be like a 3-down guy in Miami. I mean, I think, and I don't know if he can really be a 3-down guy and give you more than 2 or 3 healthy weeks at a time if they use him that way. You know what I mean? Like he's been dinged before.
Not really.
I kind of think they're not giving him passing down usage anymore wherever he goes. I think they don't throw the ball that much.
The running backs in Miami anyway. So, that maybe that would tick his roll down, but I just think that it's a better system for running backs in Miami. So that's why that's kind of the golden place. Like I said, he probably will be lowered no matter what on my rankings just because of the fact that he got cut and he's going to a different place. But I do think Miami is the one spot where he'll stay. So that's probably and that's just my wishful thinking too. If I can tell you right now, if he signs in Dallas, let me just look at my rankings. If he signs in Dallas, I would probably put him at 28. That's probably where I put him. I'd leave him, maybe knock him down a couple notches from 18 down to like 21 if he went to Miami. But yeah, I think 28 is probably the farthest I could. I mean, if he goes to New York, I'll bury him. Like I said, because he'll get nothing there. So, but yeah. So, the next guy on my list, I know we're gonna fight about. So I put him here, and I'm way higher on him than ECR is. It's AJ Dillon, and look, AJ Dillon is not flashy. He's not sexy. And I'm not trying to tell you that he's flashy or sexy, but what he is a dude that can handle 40 carries a game. I don't know if he's going to get that in Green Bay, but I do know that Green Bay is going to have to run the ball way more this year without Aaron Rodgers. And the defense isn't completely fixed. I think that's what you want to do if you're a struggling team like this. And think of the transition that the Atlanta Falcons made, right? When Matt Ryan wasn't doing anything and they realized we cannot throw the ball this much. We have to run the ball. They ran the ball more than anybody else. I think we could see a turn for the Packers in that offense, and that means Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both going to hold pretty big value. And maybe you can work stuff off the run with Jordan Love. The dude's not a slouch in the run game. He can absolutely move. So I'm very excited to see what the Green Bay running game looks like this year. And I think A.J. Dillon has to be a bigger part of it if they're going to have success, grind that clock down and ride him a little bit. He's a grinder. Like I said, not sexy, not flashy. Elusive rating is bad, but this is an old school 3 yards and a cloud of dust. And if he goes somewhere or Aaron Jones goes somewhere, he is your goal line back wherever he goes. So I feel like this is one of the few guys that I'm more excited for the long term on A.J. Dillon than I am this year, but I think he could improve this year as well. I know you are thoroughly unimpressed with him.
Yeah, I mean, like, he could be the kind of guy who gets 25 or 30 carries a game if he was as good as Derrick Henry, and he's nowhere near as good as Derrick Henry. He just hasn't been that guy. I mean, he is big and imposing, and he, will occasionally run a dude over, Boggs, but, like, we just have not seen that sort of Derrick Henry ability to take over a game. Like, we've just not seen it. He's been efficient with the carries he's gotten, I guess, but, like, he's nice to have for the Packers late in the season. And I've noticed, like the first couple of years, especially as the season wore on, like Aaron Jones was getting fewer carries and touches in December and A.J. Dillon would get more. And it dovetailed with some of the weather effects they were dealing with. I like him. I mean, he's a decent, capable pass catcher, but he's never really going to move the needle there for you. That's kind of another drawback to him. I just think I don't know if he's ever going to earn workhorse duty. And I think he needs workhorse duty to be a true difference maker in fantasy, Boggs. And I just I can't get there with him.
I feel like you have him more in the range of like Damian Harris and Devin Singletary, like 200 touch guys, but not impressive 200 touch guys, grinders, right? I think A.J. Dillon has a little more juice in that. Maybe I think its ECR is 33, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it's 30.
It is
yeah,
33.
32. 32 among running backs. So like, I get it. I get people not being in on him. I think he's better than Harris, and I think he's better than Harris and Singletary simply because I saw him do it at Boston College. Like, they had no offense. They knew what was coming, and A.J. Dillon still ran them over. It's taken him it's harder for him to do that at the next level. I get that. I just think that he's got a little more juice in those guys, and maybe this is a year we see it. But I mean, this year is big for him. If he doesn't take a step up without Aaron Rodgers there and they don't use him more, then yeah, I'll sink him. But this is a big telling year for him, and I'm going to bet on him. So I'll say that. Before we go over to Pat's running backs, let me tell you guys about the Dynasty Draft Kit at fantasypros.com/dynasty. Get ahead of the competition with our expert rankings, trade advice, combine coverage, draft rookie profiles, position primers, and more. You'll have everything you need to dominate your draft for FREE. Upgrading to premium unlocks even more draft strategy content in our draft kit, along with access to our Discord, which allows you to directly interact with our analysts. Unlock the secrets to crushing your dynasty draft with our Dynasty Draft Kit today at fantasypros.com/dynasty. Just wrapped up my IDP position primers for the draft kit. So happy about that. Fitzy, the differences that we have on yours are, I would say they're some of them are not as big. One of them is pretty significant, but let's start with Rachaad White. This is one of the bigger ones. You have him at 16. I know you and I have gone back and forth on Rachaad White a little bit. My issue with him is not that he isn't talented. He is very talented. And I think that in Tampa Bay, he could carve himself out a nice role, specifically this year. My issue is that I don't know that he's good enough to stave off them either drafting someone high next year or bringing in another free agent or something. Even this year, bringing in Zeke or bringing Fournette back would not shock me, which is why I had him as a little bit overrated right now. But you're in. So tell us why the chips are being pushed in on Rachaad White here.
Yeah, I mean, I should just clarify here, Boggs, that really after like the top 10 or 12 running backs, like my confidence level really plummets in anyone. And my ranking...
Well, you're closer to ECR than me too, Pat, just to point that out. Like it's 20 for him. So you're a little higher, and I'm lower, but I'm 9 spots off and you're only 4. So...
Yeah, well, with White, I mean, it's not really, I'm not basing this on the belief that he is going to be a workhorse. I'm basing it more on my belief in his passing game prowess. Like, he is a good pass catcher and a good pass blocker, and that is going to keep him in some sort of role in the NFL for a long time. Like, I feel very confident about his long-term career value, even if he is not a workhorse. And so few running backs really ever attain true workhorse status, Boggs. And right. I don't know if Rachaad Bateman is ever going to be that guy. But
Rachaad
in today's...
White. Yeah.
Or Rachaad Bateman. Oh, my gosh.
I don't think Rachaad Bateman's ever getting it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Rachaad White ever gets to workhorse status. And but that's okay.
I mean, he could get here this year, though. Like, that's within the realm of possibility.
He could, although so I feel
I'll
like
get that up.
I feel like the eventual Buccaneers signing of a running back is just an inevitability at this point. I could be wrong.
You can't wait for me to take that victory lap and just get it over with, huh?
Pretty much. But yeah, like I like what we saw to Rachaad White in year 1, even though, Derek Brown is very worried about his yards after contact per carry. I'm not too worried. Like I think with Rachaad White's passing game talents, like he's going to get snaps. He is going to get snaps for a long time. I think he's going to be a fixture in fantasy leagues for quite a while.
Yeah, and look, that's and I'm the first to admit. Look, I don't like black and white, right? Like everybody wants, especially in this space of fantasy football, everybody wants a black and white answer, and nobody can really give you a black and white answer. Within the realm of possibilities, is it that Rachaad White could be the leading back for the Bucs for the next 5 or 6 years? Absolutely. That is if he takes a big step up, he has a big enough frame, he has enough speed to do it. It's just that there are plenty of guys that have enough physically to do it and don't do it. And that is more likely than anything. So it's easy to be a hater and not bet on someone to succeed, which is what I am a little bit. That's why I have guys that have succeeded higher. For me, I'm a little bit of a hater in terms of that. Prove it to me first, and then I'll move you up. But once you do, I'm established and I'm good, right? So I want to see it a little bit first, even though we both have a guy that has not played a snap in the NFL as a number 1 running back. That should tell you how much I believe in Bijan, being the hater that I am occasionally on guys that are unproven. So a guy that is proven that I'm still a little bit lower on, that you have higher than I do, is J.k.Dobbins. You got him at 19. I got him at 27. His ECR is 16. So we're both actually lower on Dobbins in ECR. I'll just say for me, it's the fact that Lamar is still... I know they're trying to taper back his rushing, but he's still going to run the ball. Like, people think that he's not going to run the ball. I think that's silly. You're not going to take... You don't want him to get hurt, but you're not going to take his best skill. He's a good passer. He's a much better passer than people give credit for. And hopefully the Ravens start letting him uncork it a little bit more. But his best asset is still his running from that position. He's still the number 1. And also the weird comments that Dobbins had at the end of the year about the coaching staff and stuff. And if we had Lamar, we would have won that game. That, it seems like they're over that, but I don't know, man. Like that, maybe that stuff hangs in their head a little bit. I did not like him saying that stuff. So your thoughts on Dobbins, and we're both lower on him than ECR. I'm just significantly lower. Yeah,
and it's weird for me to be the one, advocating for J.K. Dobbins when I just feel really conflicted. Like I feel very on the fence about him.
Tough guy to rank.
He is, and he's one of these guys I don't feel great about. Wherever I put him in my rankings, I don't feel good about it. And, for me, it's mostly about that injury where he, in the 2021 preseason, tore his ACL, his LCL, and his meniscus, a multi-ligament and meniscus tear. Came back in week 3. wasn't himself at all, was still limping around. I mean, he looked like Long John Silver out there at times, like just this obvious limp. And they actually had to shut him down, got his knee scoped, had some scar tissue broken up. Came back and did look much more like the old J.K.Dobbins at the end of the season, back-to-back 100-yard rushing games and then a 93-yard rushing game. Small sample size, but cautious optimism that maybe he's back to being the guy he was at Ohio State. So, what the offensive coordinator change means for him. I mean, Greg Roman was one of the most run-happy offensive coordinators in recent memory. Todd Monken likes to throw it around a little bit more. So that remains to be seen. Yeah, I'm never quite sure what to do with Dobbins Boggs. I don't actually have him in any of my dynasty leagues. But I am kind of cautiously optimistic that he might still have a shot at stardom. There aren't a lot of guys outside of the top 10 in my rankings who I think have any real shot at being superstars. I mean, I think Dobbins could be a superstar if everything breaks right and he's totally healthy.
They gotta start throwing the ball to him. That's really the big thing with Dobbins for me too in this offense. And I know Monken's taken over, and they're gonna pass more, obviously. But I mean, still at Georgia, they ran the ball a ton.
And
so,
he can do it too. We saw a little bit of it when he was in Columbus. He can catch passes. He's capable of it.
I just want to see them do that for him. Let him do it. And that's another thing that kind of brings me down overall on Dobbins is you have these compiling factors. You have, the offense is going to be different, the injury, and the fact that they're not throwing him the ball, and Lamar running the ball too. So there's just a lot of little. It's like death by a thousand cuts to me for J.K. Dobbins because he's a super talented back, and this is a guy that if he was in the right situation, I'd definitely have him over A.J. Dillon. I'm just excited about Dillon and concerned about that knee. So this one, I was so excited, Fitz, because I was like, all right, finally, a guy that I'm going to be closer on ECR than Fitz is. And that's not the case. You have Achane at 22. I am at 36, so we're separated by 14 spots here. But we're both 7 spots away. He's ECR 29, so you're 7 spots and I'm 7 spots, dead in the middle on Achane. So Achane as an RB2 is bold, I would say, Fitzy, in my opinion. So tell me why you're pushing the chips in on the Aggie.
Oh, Boggs, it wouldn't be an episode of the Fantasy Pros Dynasty podcast if I didn't gush about Devon Achane. Yeah, so it's just, and I'll make this quick because I think our listeners have mostly heard this all before. I think he's terrific. His explosive speed, that 4.32 near Olympic sprinter type speed, coupled with his contact balance. And he's not a Nyheim Hines type passing down back. I think he can be more like Warwick Dunn, who used to handle really significant workloads and, was like a consistent running back one for fantasy, because I think Achane has such exceptional contact balance. And to anyone who questions whether a guy his size can handle a heavy load, he averaged 23.6 touches a game for Texas A&M last year and just under 20 carries in the SEC. And they slammed him between the tackles quite a bit. This guy
and the defense knew what was coming because it was the most basic crap offense you've ever seen, even for college, for A&M last year.
This is not a one-dimensional little passing down back at all.
Yeah, I think the size is my main concern with Achane, just being a little bit undersized at a brutal position. But, Ekeler did it. There's definitely the upside is, again, within the realm of possibility for Achane. There's a lot of talent there. It's just the history of small backs don't have a good track record. Little concern with Miami always wanting to use multiple backs. Another guy, too, kind of like Rachaad White, that does Devon Achane prohibit them from taking like Travion Henderson next year. And if they do take Henderson, that's a guy that's tough to take off the field. You know what I mean? Those top end RBs, Braylon Allen, another like guy that's going to be a grinder. You want him taking 20 carries to wear out that defense. So that it's another like small thing for me, but Achane, like you said about Rachaad White, has a role in the NFL for a long time because he is so versatile. So I do like that about him. The last guy in your RB2s that we're going to talk about here, and we're only 8 spots here. DeAndre Swift, you have at 23. I have him at 31. His ECR is actually higher than both of us at 19, which surprises me a little bit. I was also a little surprised to see you still in on Swift because we've talked about how we both kind of think maybe it's Rashad Penny getting first look here. But Penny can't stay on the field. If there's anything proven in the NFL, it's that Penny will not play 16, 17 games. So is that really what it's about? Is at the end of the day, Swift is the best running back in that backfield?
Yeah, I mean, technically, I guess I am in on him if I've got him in running back 2 range, but I am below consensus. And, I do have some concerns that the Lions saw 3 years of DeAndre Swift and gave him the big thumbs down like Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator, pretty much. And, the other thing, Boggs, I mean, the fact that 2 years ago, Swift averaged 6 targets a game. He had 78 targets in 13 games. Last year, 5 targets a game, 70 targets in 14 games. The Eagles had 61 running back targets last year, fewest in the league. And they're not going to be in dump off, hurry up mode very often because they're, arguably the most complete team in the NFL. They're not going to be in playing catch up game scripts very often. Plus Jalen Hurts is mobile. So he's not going to dump off a lot. So I don't know what kind of season Swift is in for if he's not the primary early down guy and isn't going to catch a lot of passes. However, Boggs, his contract expires after this year. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2024 unless the Eagles extend him, which I almost don't want them to do if you're interested in DeAndre Swift. I don't think the Eagles are a great landing spot, as good as their offense and as good as their offensive line is. I don't think it's an ideal spot for him. But this dude has pass catching skills and he's 24 years old. So there's still hope.
Yeah. So the things that concern me about Swift that, are kind of obvious is that the Lions giving up on him. I was wrong about the pick earlier. I thought it was a 6. It was a 4th. So obviously that there is it's way more meaningful to trade a 4th than a 6, but still, they took him very early and Deuce Staley has just had enough of this guy. And I don't know what it is. Is it just him being banged up? Is it about him not listening? What is it? Because it seemed like on Hard Knocks, they were visibly frustrated with him and they gave Jamal Williams all the goal line carries. So, it's just there's a couple things adding up here. Now, I actually think that Philly could be a really good landing spot for him if he does get the job. And because, being next to Jalen Hurts is a great spot to be in, great offense. That's going to get, a lot of touchdowns. And they probably need to stop that Jalen Hurts up the middle being pushed by lineman nonsense before he gets, cracked in half. Right. So they want to they should replace some Jalen runs with some DeAndre Swift dump offs. And that's probably the thought process behind getting him. So, I think it could be a good spot for him, but I don't know. I'm just not sold. I think this is what we're going to get from Swift is a frustrating back that could be really good. That's just pretty good. And that is annoying and it makes him difficult to start on a week-to-week basis as well. So I'll let someone else take the headache. So that's kind of my thoughts on Swift. I did have three other guys here, Fitz, that we have a difference on. Before we go to those guys, do you want to talk about anybody else in the RB2s here?
No, let's do that. So we've each got a few more guys who are sort of outside the top 25. Let's do that. Cover them real fast. Your guys give me your sales pitch and I'll give you maybe one sentence of concern. So a couple sentences on each guy.
Okay. So Eli Mitchell first. Look, if you do want McCaffrey to make it all the way through the season, you gotta let Mitchell play a little bit. And this is another guy that's explosive, young and doesn't need a ton of touches to be good. So I have Eli Mitchell at 39. You have him at 52. His ECR is 45. So we're both kind of in the middle. Actually, one of the very few guys I'm closer to ECR than you are by one spot. That's my first guy. Your concerns about Mitchell?
No real concerns. I could be talked into moving. I'm probably a little too low on him. On the smaller side, hasn't really been a prolific pass catcher since getting to the NFL, but I don't know. His track record shows that maybe he could be more of a pass catcher. So I don't have any real beefs with Elijah Mitchell.
D'Onta Foreman, I have at 50. His ECR is 59. You have him at 67. I'll freely admit that D'Onta Foreman could be a nothing burger after this year. There's a lot of competition with Herbert and him and Roschon. I just think that people are already counting him out and putting him third because he's not the sexy rookie, and people like Herbert more. And look, Foreman came in and ran the ball well in Carolina last year. So, I've watched him a lot. I know he's a guy a lot like A.J. Dillon that can take the load if you're going to give it to him. So I think that this guy could be a 20-touch guy. He also could be a 4-touch guy. So there's just so much variance in him. It's hard to rank him high. I'm just higher on ECR than D'Onta Foreman. He
was really good in Carolina last year with a lot of volume bogs. He's not going to be a 20-touch guy. He is going to be a 4-touch guy. It's a three-man committee with him, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, and you've got a quarterback who poaches running back value. So I just don't see it.
I'm going to say he's a 12-touch guy. I'm going to say 12 a game is what he's going to start with. Somewhere in between. Jerick McKinnon, I have him at 55. It's probably we're both below ECR and Jerick McKinnon, 71 for him. He's old, right? But like I've said always, I want a piece of the Kansas City offense, and he's a big piece. Sometimes he gets a hot hand. There's worse injury replacements and all that stuff. So, you can take Evan Hull or Zach Evans or one of those guys and kind of hope, or you could take McKinnon and know I got another guy that's in here in case I have an injury. Like Fitz said before, most dynasty leagues are PPR, and that is where he holds the most value. So that's why I feel like I like McKinnon, but we're both lower on ECR than him, which surprised me a little bit. I think it's just the KC next to his name, though.
I think he's rosterable, Boggs, but that's it. I mean, he's 31. Okay. He's injury prone. And boy, he was a nightmare to rank in weekly fantasy rankings late last year because he had a 6-game stretch, Boggs, from week 13 through the end of the regular season. He had 9 touchdowns in 6 games. And do you know how many touches he averaged in those 6 games? 10 a game. He was averaging a touchdown every 6.7 carries or touches, I should say. But so just ridiculous. You can't count on volume, and that touchdown streak was just non-repeatable, I think.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? I bet that's probably why he's ranked higher. But we're both I did not take that into consideration in my ranking. I just think he's a solid guy that catches passes on a good offense. So the touchdowns could be there again because he plays for Kansas City, but I would not expect them. Who are your 3 guys here, Fitzy?
Chase Brown at running back 39. You've got him at 56. Yes, kind of an aspirational ranking, but Mixon is probably not going to be in Cincinnati for more than another year. Brown showed he could handle a massive workload at Illinois last year, where he averaged 27.3 carries a game. He's got 4.43 speed and a 9.8 relative athletic score on a 10-point scale, which ranks 36th out of 1,740 running backs to log a RAS score since 1987. So crazy athletic, very productive in college. Probably is not going to have a major role this year, but beyond this year, certainly could.
Yeah, I think this guy you're excited about, I'm excited about the potential for A.J. Dillon with no Aaron Jones, right? I think that's kind of what it is. Obviously, this dude more athletic than a grinder, just a massive dude like A.J. Dillon is, but lots of upside. This is a guy that I could also be convinced to move up, so I do not hate this ranking at all. So I'll say I'm on board with you, Fitz. Who's number 2?
Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, I've got him 47th. You've got him 62. His ECR is 53. So I'm not making a huge sales pitch for him, but he's 24. And, he's been efficient. 4.4 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns on 121 career carries. Ideally, I think he's suited to be a passing down back, and as we just discussed, he's not on the right team for that. But I do think, he could have a long career, and the efficiency he's shown so far is encouraging.
Yeah, I don't hate Kenneth Gainwell, but I feel like everyone tells me the Eagles love Gainwell. Then why did they go get Penny and Swift if they love Gainwell so much, right? This was more exciting when they let Miles Sanders walk. So I was like, ooh, maybe they like Gainwell, but then I lowered him a little bit. So yeah, I think his future is probably better for a different team. I just don't know who that team is and where, so it just concerns me a little bit.
And then my last guy is DeWayne McBride, who I've got running back 55. You've got him running back 73. ECR is running back 66. I mean, he has a chance to earn a significant role in the Vikings backfield, and he was really productive at UAB. Granted, not against top flight competition, but man, last season, 1,700 rushing yards and 19 touchdown runs. And 32 touchdown runs over his last 2 years. So a total 0 in the passing game, which doesn't help him in PPR formats. But, maybe he could get significant early down work.
Yeah, I think you and I have gone back and forth on this Minnesota running back spot. Everyone who listens religiously knows that. I'm a Ty Chandler guy. That's why I'm lower on McBride and Nagwanu and all the rest of those guys. Chandler's my guy. So we're taking bets here. But look, I think McBride is a good guy to put a bet on as well. I would rather bet on McBride than your boy Nagwanu. I'll say that, Fitzy. So, for the Vikings, whoever's backing up Madison, I think it's Chandler. You like McBride, which means it'll end up being Nagwanu, like I said before. But that's just the way it shakes out for us in the running backs. But we appreciate you guys listening. We're going to wrap it up here. Went through our RB2s, and maybe you guys have some agreements, disagreements, let us know. But remember, you can find us on the Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at Fitz_FF for Fitzy. And we will see you guys to talk some QBs next week. So take it easy, everybody. Boom. We were bumping right up against it. I got to finish this thing and stop.